You are listening to the 79 West podcast series, recorded in Pittsboro, North Carolina. We hope you enjoy.
All right. We're officially starting, even though we've been recording for a few minutes. So, my name is Jenna, as you guys know. So let's go ahead and jump in. Go ahead. I'll start with you, Katie. You can introduce yourself and let me know what you do for Munson.
Okay. My name is Katie Stokes. Should I look anywhere?
You can just look at me. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. My name is Katie Stokes, and I'm the tech at the firm, but I'm also now Stephanie's legal assistant. So I do her drafting, and we're doing all of her scheduling and all the things.
Wow.
And since I'm the tech at the firm, we're doing all the kind of like, what would you call it? Proof of concept, efficiency, like improvements, automations, anything involved with AI. I have my hands in. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of that's my gist. We're about 20. I think we all wear about 20 hats, but those are my main hats.
That's awesome. All right, and Stephanie.
So I am an estate planning attorney there at the firm. I've done a lot of probate and estate administration. We do that as well, but I'm mostly doing estate planning. And but we've been, because of the fact that the firm has grown a lot in the last year, or a little bit over a year, that's what Katie and I are trying to do, is kind of help with some of the, processes to make them smoother and try to get people from point A to the finish without as many, quirks in our system.
Right.
So.
Right. All right. Well, that sounds great. So I guess my first question, just jumping right in, is can you tell us a little bit about Munson? Just like a brief overview, maybe even perhaps a mission statement.
Yes, we're very proud of our mission statement because we are rapidly growing.
Right.
And so we all came together in January of 2025 to come up with a new mission statement. So we're very proud of it. So I am going to read it, because I don't have it memorized.
Lovely.
But it comes from our hearts.
Okay.
So the Munson Law Firm invests in lifelong relationships with our clients, our team, and our communities. Combining empathy, innovation, and collaboration, we design comprehensive solutions to protect what matters most: your family, your home, your business, and your legacy. So we do. So again, we do. Primarily estate planning is the vast majority of what Munson does. We do have the trust administration, estate administration, probate, guardianships, those kinds of things. And then we also have a business attorney who does employment law as well as business planning. But again, the majority of what we do is kind of core is planning. So it's whether it's crafting a solution for a problem that we're foreseeing, like if we have families who have loved ones with disabilities, we want to make sure they have a supplemental needs trust in place to make sure that they can protect their benefits, whether that's a simple will or preparing for somebody's incapacity, potentially, what would happen to your kids if something happened to you, what would happen to your house, those kinds of things. And with the business planning, even though I don't do as much of that, it's business succession, as well as let's make sure, okay, you've set up this business, you've set up this LLC, now what do you do? What are the next steps you take to make sure that your business is going to run the way it's supposed to, protect you and your personal assets the way it's supposed to, those kinds of those planning issues, more so than, we're not attorneys who are in court all the time.
I see.
It's not what we do. We don't typically do those kinds of things. So we all like to get along. We get along really well, and so we like to get along with our clients without fighting with people as much. As much as possible.
I think Sophia at one point, and we should probably shout out Sophia Munson and
Yes.
Mike Munson.
Yes.
They're our fearless leaders.
Fantastic.
And
Absolutely.
they kind of, develop, I don't know, they're kind of, I view them as kind of, I always think when you have like a preacher of a congregation, you tend to like, the congregation tends to have the personality of the preacher, right?
Of who's, yes.
That's what
correct.
I kind of feel like.
So the vibe
like
carries through.
I feel like a better person when I work for Munson. Everybody else. I really do. I feel like more community minded and like, looking out for, I don't know, what all's going on in the community. How can we help? That's been more at the forefront for me personally. But I was going to say, Sophia, she had mentioned to me once upon a time that really we do any kind of practice area that doesn't litigate. That's kind of one thing I have in my head because they're can be pretty broad, but estate planning is definitely what most people come to us for.
Okay.
But basically, if it doesn't litigate, Sophia can definitely do it. I mean,
Wow.
she's a kind of a rock star.
That's good.
Well, and we try to do too things that if we can't do it individually, if we decide that maybe that's a little bit beyond our wheelhouse, we try as much as we can to find the people that to help our non-clients find the people that they need to do those kinds of things. If it gets too much, or it crosses a line into something that's a little bit not what we would typically practice in. So, but we have a great team. We have, in addition to Sophia and Mike, we have 2 other attorneys. Nikia is our business attorney. Angie is also another estate planning, and she does most of our estate administration. And then,
Which is, do you know what estate administration is?
That was my next question. I was like, please enlighten me.
So the one that most people know is probate. So that's if somebody passes away, you take their will and supplemental documents and go to the clerk of court and the county in which they live, and it helps distribute their property to their loved ones, their beneficiaries. In addition, some folks don't have to do that as much because they'll have a trust in place. So sometimes it's managing assets beyond somebody's passing, like managing bank accounts for people with disabilities, people, minor kids who are not old enough to receive their distributions, or people who just need a little help managing money, or in the case of people who just have more resources, managing it for a longer period of time. So that would be trust administration. And then guardianships, while there is definitely a move in the state as well as the country to prevent unnecessary guardianships, and because it does take away people's rights, trying to do as much as we can to respect least restrictive alternatives, like helping people help themselves and finding ways to facilitate somebody who can't manage everything by themselves, helping find them resources that they can manage some of the things for themselves. But when a guardianship is possible or necessary, that somebody really does need someone to take care of their money, to their personal affairs, where that person is just not able at the moment to be able to do it by themselves, even with assistance, then a guardianship is established, and that's we would typically help somebody who needs to get a guardianship for a parent, a child, somebody who needs that assistance, and that's going to the clerk again to be able to get that process in place. And so it's all kind of, again, it's protecting legacy, protecting your loved ones. It's all kind of those kinds of concepts are all kind of the core of what we do.
Okay, so just putting in as much security for those 3 things that you had listed. Okay, I gotcha. Well, that's great, and I've been enlightened now. I now know. So
were you thinking of Britney Spears the whole time?
I was curious.
know.
I was like, I feel like I read something about this.
Wendy Williams.
Yeah.
There's a new Netflix, I think, documentary on Wendy Williams, which I haven't
so
seen
that all
yet.
ties
But
in.
yeah, I mean
perspective.
that's why there's a push for least restrictive alternatives.
Yes,
And I'm using that term because it's a really big set of buzzwords, within the communities that help folks with disabilities.
Absolutely.
Because the idea is that if you can find a way to do something to help someone, or find resources to help them do what they need to do, or what they need help with, rather than saying, I'm going to do it for you, that's always a better alternative.
Got it. Yeah.
And I think that I have no means, I don't know much about the Britney Spears situation, but I think the problem with that was that they went straight from, she needs some help because she's going through some stuff, to let's just take over for her.
Take the reins.
And then it's really hard to get it back.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, because her rights were taken away.
Right.
And I can't judge whether or not they should have been.
Right.
But the idea is that once you take those rights away, it's a lot harder to restore them. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I had some insight on that situation, Well, I was gonna say it's clear that y'all's passion, kind of is translated through your answers so far. But I'm curious what, where that passion came from. What brought you to Munson? So whoever wants to start, Katie, if you want.
Katie was here longer, so
brought me to
we'll start with you.
Okay, sure.
Well, probably. I mean, it's for me, it's fireside chat. So Sophia lives in the neighborhood.
Okay.
And Angie is one of my neighbors, Angie Spong, one of our
nice.
state administration.
Okay.
And we have a Thursday fire chat a lot. And because I'm kind of a tech nerd, and her husband also is a little tech nerd, we end up like talking tech stuff a lot.
Okay.
And she ended up asking me one time, she said, we're trying to do this at the firm. I was like, why don't you just, I was just like, well, you can do this.
You could just,
And apparently she went back and told Sophia, and Sophia's like, get her in here, please. So I kind of came in temporary just to help them with a few, normal kind of tech things that small businesses need help with. And from then, I kind of, somebody went on vacation. I filled in, and then they kind of they were starting to grow and needed other things.
The second string got put in,
about 5 months after my very temporary kind of position, I became permanent.
Cool.
At Munson. No, I love it.
Well, that's a cool
I love
story.
the people and just the way that they kind of move throughout the community and just, I don't know.
And to like have that community right in your neighborhood and like have neighbors that are kind enough to be like, oh, because just out of the job search, and I know obviously it's a lot different once you have a resume. That's not like College Expo, right? Yeah. But it's no joke. Like searching for jobs can be hard, so to have that network literally like right in your neighborhood is so important. That's really awesome that you were able to do that. But
I love it.
Unique story, cool story. Right? How about that? And then, what is your story?
So I've been doing estate planning for a little over 10 years. Okay. And so I'm in a couple different places and started out on my own initially, but it wasn't quite, Pittsburgh wasn't really quite the same 10 years ago in terms of needing this kind of more of a concierge law practice that's just focused on like planning issues. It was more kind of general practice and things like that, which is not my thing. Like I said, I don't want to do litigation. I don't want to do traffic law. So trying to focus on one particular kind of area was a little difficult. And so I did a couple things in the intervening years, and then I was at another firm, sort of somewhere in the area, but not in Chatham. And it just wasn't quite a good fit. And so I did the opposite of Katie, but I just cold called them and said, hey, if you ever need anybody, let me know. And it turned out to be a good time.
Perfect.
So,
Wow.
But it's been good. And I think that, Katie and I are both, again, are really working hard to kind of help bring some of these kind of, okay, we're a small firm. What do we need to do to, those automations that we were talking about earlier, what do we need to do to kind of, if we are starting to bring more people in eventually, and what do we need to be doing so that everything moves smoothly? And she and I work well together and those kinds of things. I'm like, ooh, we could do this, or we could do that, or we have this other idea.
Cool.
Or like maybe we could take this and we can automate it a little bit and then fill it out with this other creativity. And so I think that she and I have been, I love working at the firm generally, but I really, really enjoy working with Katie because she and I kind of were like, sounding boards and things like that. And I think that it's been fun to be part of that process too. Tell them about it. It's very cool.
Well, no, I used to work at another small business. It was a small business that did research. Okay. And what we did, my boss was a doctor, a psychiatrist, and he taught other doctors how to, treat and assess certain addictions. And so we built games to try to teach people how to motivationally interview their patients, how to, want to quit smoking or drinking or, opioids were a thing really big back then. Anyway, so I'm a published author on a bunch of medical kind of things. But no, so I really got into gaming, and I have a fellowship at the VA in clinical simulation. And so that kind of threw me into my tech world.
I was going to say, so really, now we're really going back.
So really, and I'm I'm a certified Unreal educator.
Wow.
And so that's what I was going to do here. It's still in the hopper to work with.
We talked about
Innovate Chatham to do some gaming kind of teaching situations. But I'm sorry, I hijacked.
No.
Thing.
But I mean, the thing is that it's good though, because that background and then my background working with, just kind of being in that solo practice mindset, of kind of running, even though I'm not I'm not in charge of things now, which I actually kind of like. No offense to Sophia and Mike, but I like working with clients.
Sure.
I really enjoy the kind of one-to-one. That's my favorite part about what we do. And so, but my background and her background, it works well with, like I'm trying to solve the problems that I had 10 years ago that didn't work, in trying to integrate them with the current things we are trying to do at the firm. And then Katie has all these amazing, skills that we can try to, with the automations, with AI is here. There are certain things we can't do with it. There are certain things we have to be cautious about using it for. But at the same time, she's got skills to be able to say, like, these are the kinds of things we could be doing. And then we can step back and say, okay, what can we do using AI? What can we use in the technology to be able to make our processes better, make our client experience better? Because again, going back to that, that's kind of ultimately what we're trying to do.
Absolutely.
That we, whether it's going into the community so that we really know the people that we're working with and the places that they live, partly because we live here ourselves, but also, that it also gives us a way to say, like, we really understand what you're going through, and this is the way we can use our skills in the legal field to help people, accomplish their planning goals. And so I think that, I think that it's a real asset to have her skills and those kinds of things, because it's, again, you do sort of need to think out of the side of the box, and just, with a lot of fields, I think that the legal practice is trying to kind of, try to get out of that stuffy role of, like, I'm your attorney and I'm in my suit and tie and I have very set things that I'm going to do, and it has to be done my way or the highway. And we're trying to find ways that are good for us, that are good for our clients. And I think that some of these kind of creative skills make a huge difference. And the other thing that I've got to do is shout out not just Katie, but the whole team is very collaborative, which is fantastic. And then we put that in our mission statement, but I think that that's one thing that's really special about Munson, is that it really is a true team. And I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but it does. But it's it is a group of people who really care about each other and about trying to help each other and helping out where we can. If somebody has whether it's just a conflict, trying to step in and helping people out, or hey, you've got a lot on your plate. What can I do to help? Or maybe our system isn't working. So let's see if we can fix the system so that we all can breathe a little better.
There's just a lot of collaboration.
Yeah, it is. And it's really nice. And so and I think that our clients benefit from that too, because then they've got, they might be working with me, but they've also got Mike and Sophia and Angie and Katie and all of the fantastic sports stuff. So
you're not just like kind of moved into factions, it really is a group effort. And that was like such a little wholesome way. We just hit our little mark. So is there any?
We're gonna do our little.
Even though it's on,
we have a picture coming up on the website, hopefully.
Oh,
soon.
fantastic! Okay.
Well, we're going to remember we took that picture.
I was gonna say,
yes.
do you guys want to plug? You want to plug some socials or some websites?
Well, I mean, we're redoing our website right now.
Oh, well,
and so. Cool. Katie and I are the 79 West team. Everybody else is technically based at Old House. So we're the 79. So when we were doing the team pictures, it was just the two of us. So we did it. We did our part.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for sitting down with me today.
Yeah, thank you, Jenna. We appreciate it.
Seeing you.
Absolutely. Yes. We should do this again, and we should just go, instead of of course I love talking business because I learned so much today. But I very much want to pick you guys' brains about your hobbies. I know we talked books, we got to talk video games. Those are my two favorite things. Those are my pastimes. So.
80s kids TV shows. It's there.
Okay.
It's
there.
there.
I'm a big fan of sitcoms, so I'm all about that. Yeah, I was like, we got it. We've got a good rhythm.
Okay.
Let's do it. All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thanks, Jenna.
Thanks for listening. We encourage you to follow us at 79 West Hub to learn more about our space, our tenants, and our story.